Peace of Mind, Iron Maiden's third album, and this album, kind of riding off the success of The Number of the Beast, obviously had their last lineup change for a good amount of years, and that is replacing Clive Burr with Nico McBrain. And Nico McBrain is a much better technical drummer than Clive Burr, although I've heard people say they prefer Clive Burr because of his style, but I have to say Nico is just far better in my opinion. Now, previously, Nico McBrain was part of a band called Trust, and his band Trust was supporting Iron Maiden when they were going on tour. So even before Clive Burr left because he couldn't take the touring, Nico was quite good friends with Steve Harris and the rest of the band. Now, another important, not a lineup change, but Bruce finally got some writing credits, and this is sort of the album when I consider that Bruce really became part of the band. You know, on the previous album he was just a really good replacement for Paul Di'Anno, but now he's really part of the band. He has some writing credits that are completely to him, and some co-writing credits. And even though the sort of golden days, the golden era of Iron Maiden is Number of the Beast through Seventh Son, or Number of the Beast through Power Slave, the real sort of golden lineup, really good time for Iron Maiden was from Peace of Mind onward, not Number of the Beast, because of Nico and because of Bruce becoming much more part of the band. Now, this album is stylistically and structurally quite different to The Number of the Beast. Now, while The Number of the Beast was really flashy, really epic, really upbeat, really good vibe, this album is a bit darker and would sort of be a precursor to some of the really dark kind of albums that they would do in the future, like The X Factor and A Matter of Life and Death. And also this album is much more technically complex. This is partly due to Nico McBrain being technically a better drummer, but I also think the band were musically evolving. You know, they didn't want to just try to do another Number of the Beast. They had some time. They went to the Bahamas. They had a short break, but in that time they got their heads together and they wanted to do something a bit different, and it produced Peace of Mind, which is a brilliant album. Now, this album gets a little bit overlooked at times because it came just after Number of the Beast and right before their next album, Power Slave, which both those albums, Number of the Beast and Power Slave, are really famous in Iron Maiden's catalog. And so this album can sometimes be ignored, but it definitely shouldn't. It's definitely a great album that should be celebrated, because not only is it the band evolving a bit, doing something a bit different, they would return to the kind of flashier, more upbeat style on Power Slave, but this album should definitely be an album that's celebrated in Iron Maiden's catalog. Now, the production, they obviously still had Martin Birch, so the production's pretty high. However, I do think it's a little bit thin in some areas, but its overall production's similar to Number of the Beast, although it's a different kind of sound and different kind of vibe on Number of the Beast, but the production quality is pretty similar. Now, the artwork is one of Maiden's weaker artworks of the 80s. Obviously, Number of the Beast, Power Slave, Seventh Son, Somewhere in Time are just great pieces of artwork that nobody that has seen them will ever forget. But Peace of Mind, it's a really cool image, really dark vibe, you know. It's the first time you see Eddie without hair, by the way. Just a quick thing to mention. And yeah, it's a good piece of art done by Derek Riggs, but for the 80s, it's a little bit less memorable. The album opens with a track, Where Eagles Dare, and it has that drum intro that I was talking about. It's a really good drum intro. Shows off Nico's skills right off the bat. But the actual song's actually a really good song. Kind of similar to the next song, Revelations. It kind of shows off a slower, more experimental, instrumentally complex side of the band. And it's a very good song. However, again, similar to Revelations, it's about 6 minutes long, and it feels a little bit repetitive. Now, far more down the line, maybe nearly in the 21st century, they'd start doing a lot more chorus repeats, but this is kind of the first hint of that, because on their first 2 or 3 albums, it was all sort of 4.5 to maybe 5 minute songs for the most part. And the next track is Revelations, and this is the first track that Bruce would write entirely by himself, and it's actually a really good song. Again, similar to Where Eagles Dare, a little bit repetitive at times because it's about 6 minutes long, Really good lyrics on the song, by the way. I mean, it's Bruce Dickinson writing, so you pretty much come to expect good lyrics. And it's kind of cool because after they had the backlash, or at least some people, most people really love Number of the Beast, but there was a small backlash calling them a bunch of Satanists. So it's pretty cool they did a song basically about God and the Bible. Yeah, but the actual song itself is a really, really good, really strong song on the album. And I really appreciate the slower kind of acoustic sections on this song, and this song really shows off Bruce kind of holding back a bit. Now this kind of adds to what I was talking about Bruce becoming more part of the band. He's not just one style of singer anymore. He can hold back and let the instrument shine for a bit, which I really appreciate. This is the first time that Bruce really holds back a little bit. Now the next track, Flight of Icarus, basically completely contradicts what I've said about the album so far, and it's completely high and flashy, and Bruce is just completely screaming at the top of his lungs. And yeah, it's a really catchy song, really strong radio song, and this is the kind of first track on this album to feature that kind of harmony of Bruce's, where it's like a layered kind of a vocal, and it's really good. It's not overused on this song like some of the songs on this album that use that kind of vocal effect. But yeah, it's a really strong song, really catchy, one of the better songs on the album, to be honest. And the next track is Die With Your Boots On, and one thing to note is that we're kind of in the middle of this album, so I want to talk about a complaint that I have with this album and a lot of songs by Iron Maiden, is that it kind of follows a structure where it's like verse, chorus, guitar solo, verse, chorus. And I don't know how many people actually listen for this, but I always, when I listen to a song, see if it follows this structure of verse, chorus, guitar solo, verse, chorus. And you'll find a lot more songs than maybe you've thought actually just follow this kind of a structure. And this song basically follows it straight to a T, but it's actually, talking more about the song, it's actually a pretty good song. The lyrics are a little bit cliche. It's about kind of war and soldiers, and but no, it's a pretty good song. I really like that bass effect. It's kind of similar to Run to the Hills, where it starts kind of low and then it gets higher and higher and higher. That's really cool. And then there's the fifth track on the album, The Trooper, and this is obviously by far the most famous song off this album. They still play this song in concert almost all the time, and it's a really, really great song. I mean, when the opening riff, and the riff drives most of the song, it's just so good, sticks in your head. Great guitar solo as well, great lyrics. This is completely Bruce singing at the top of his lungs. You can really feel by the way Bruce sings, and even more on Power Slave, but you can tell that the band is just playing as good as they can, and they know that they're like the best metal band in the world at this point. Bruce is singing as good as he'll ever sing, and the rest of the band are playing as good as they'll ever play. And there'd be a lot more songs like this on Power Slave, where it's just the band being at the best that they can be and just playing it all out. And the next track is Still Life, and this is kind of starts for me the kind of trilogy of fillers on this album, which is this song Still Life and the next two tracks. And no, but it's not too bad. It has this really weird intro, and I know what it is. It's one of those things where you play it in reverse and then it's like some kind of hidden message, but it completely throws off the album. I mean, after The Trooper, that was so good, and then you get this like weird backwards intro. I don't really like it. Now, let's talk about a bit more about the album, and that is that this is the only album that Iron Maiden would do up until the X Factor that would not have a title track. However, on this song, Still Life, kind of in the middle, you have like a voice in the background that says Peace of Mind, but it's not said in the way that it's spelt. It's spelt like peace, warm peace, kind of peace, that kind of peace of mind. And it doesn't really add or take away from the song. It's I'm not really too sure what to think about it. It's definitely kind of cool to hear, but not really too sure why they did it. Now the rest of the songs just kind of average. I think they played it in concert maybe 1 or 2 times after this album was released, but yeah, it's really nothing that special in my opinion. And this goes into the next filler in this album, and that is Quest for Fire. And this song's not too bad, you know. I think the worst track on this album is the next one, Son of Steel. But this track, Quest for Fire, it's okay. It's pretty catchy. Has some good bass moments, but overall doesn't really have much to offer to the rest of the album. And then we go Son of Steel, which is in my opinion the worst track on the album. And this also kind of similar to Quest for Fire. It's a bit catchy at moments, but nothing instrumentally that cool, or it doesn't really have much to bring to the album. But yeah, some good bass moments, and overall it's not like torturous and you have to skip it. It's just kind of, you've already listened to The Trooper, and if you're going to listen to the album, you may as well listen to these songs too, because they're not bad, and they go by pretty quickly. And then we go into the epic, the grand epic of the album, To Tame a Land, and this, I'm just going to say right off the bat, I think it's one of Steve Harris' weaker epics that he would do in the 80s, and that's just because of the other epics that he would do, you know, Hallowed Be Thy Name, Riding the Ancient Mariner, Alexander the Great, Seventh Son, are just all so good. This just kind of seems weak compared to them, but it's really not. It's a really good song. It's probably in the top 3 songs on this album, along with Flight of Icarus and The Trooper. But yeah, this song's really good too. It has this intro that's kind of slow, kind of provides a cool vibe to the rest of the song, and it's not too long, feels appropriate length for me. And the rest of the song, it just has some really good bass. Bruce is singing really well, you know. It's not just high screamy, he's actually, you know, going high and low and really showing off his vocals without just completely screaming at the top of his lungs. But to be honest, for an epic, now I'm gonna sound really mean when I say this, but it kind of feels like they had like a 5-minute song and they elongated it to about 7 minutes and then called it an epic, which I know sounds really mean, and it really shouldn't, because this is a good song, but it's a little bit repetitive by the end, and I don't think epics that Steve Harris done, this is really the only one that I ever really feel that, to be honest. But yeah, the song has a good guitar line, a really strong overall track. It's just when you compare it to the other absolutely amazing epics that Steve Harris would do in the 80s, it kind of seems a bit weak. And that concludes the track by track. Now, this album, Peace of Mind, is a great album. It kind of lives in the shadow of either Number the Beast and Power Slave, because they came out 1 year prior or 1 year afterwards. But this is an album that definitely is celebrated by hardcore fans and by a lot of people too. This isn't like some unknown album. A lot of people know about this album and like this album, but I feel like at times it doesn't quite get the praise it deserves. And it's not just because they decided to take a kind of different route, do something a bit different. That too is definitely worth praise, but this also has some really good songs, not just The Trooper and Flight of Icarus, by the way. And yeah, I think this is a really strong album, so I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Later.